Baruch haba, welcome. AlephBet, good evening and shalom. We welcome you to our beginners class. We're coming to the end. We only have about 2 classes left for this. And so we began a slight introduction of the letter Reish last week. And so this is the letter Reish. This is the English transliteration of it. This is the pictograph, and then its number. Every Hebrew letter has a number. So the last 3 letters are represented here. This is Reish, this is Shin, and this is Tav. So let's say Reish, Shin, Tav. Again, Reish, Shin, Tav. One more. Reish, Shin, Tav. And the numbers are 200, 300, 400. Everyone? 200, 300, 400. 200, 300, 400. So just so everybody's with us, the reason is Aleph is 1, and we go to Yud 10, and then we start 10s, 20, 30, 40 to the hundreds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 200, 300, 400. So every Hebrew letter is a number, and the numbers are letters. And as we have spoken before, this is the way that Gematria works. Gematria is making words from numbers and numbers from words and such as that in the relationship. And so every Hebrew letter of the alphabet is its number. Tonight we're going to talk about Reish. And give me just a second here. Reish is the Hebrew letter for R. And we spoke to this a few weeks back, that in Hebrew, the letter R is rolled like the Spanish R on the tongue, but in Spanish, the letter R is rolled from the front of the tongue. So, arroyo. What's another word? Rio. And so it's a little trill at the front of the tongue. In Hebrew, there's a trill on the tongue, but it's from the back of the throat. And so it's almost like you're swallowing the letter. It's almost like a G sound. So it's a reish from the back of the throat. Reish. And so, as we've spoken before, if you hear an Israeli speaking English, they will have a peculiar R sound. They're trying to pronounce the American R, the English R, but because they have that ingrained in them, speaking Hebrew, that they will always have that R coming out, that little bit of a swallowing of the R coming out. Where we would say, in speaking English and speaking of Torah, so we say Torah. Some of the Jews from New York will say Torah, so Torah. So we would say Torah, they would say Torah. So they almost swallow the R back there, Torah. So this is the Reish, it is the R sound. And Reish means beginning. Reish means beginning. It has the idea of being the head. This particular version we'll get into later, but this particular version, not the head, but like the head of a corporation, the head of something like that kind of head. So like a chief, something like that. So Reish would be the beginning or the head. The head as being a start, the start of something. So this is the idea of Reish. The pictograph is that of a head, a human head. And the Reish represents a head. And so we'll talk about that as we get into it. But it has the idea of beginning. So, Genesis 1:1. How does the Torah start? How does the scripture start? Genesis 1:1. In the beginning. So you notice this. In the beginning. So, in Hebrew, I'll write it in transliteration first. In Hebrew, you would say the Reish-Shin, the Reish-Shin. So it would be spelled like this. Okay, and here you see your word, Reish. So the Beit, Bayit means house, and so it has the idea of indoors, or that kind of idea. So the Beit, when it's used as a prefix, this is a prefix to the main word. So the Beit as a prefix, and usually in a transliteration you'll see the little apostrophe at the top, meaning that there's a space there. So you have, in Hebrew, it would be a mark called the Shabbat. It would look like this, meaning that there's no vowel sound in between the letters. And you get into that in the advanced class. So the Beit, the B, as a prefix before the main word, means in or into. So you have in. Welcome. The definite article the is not in the Hebrew. It's understood in English because that's the way the statement would make sense. And then you have Reish. So you have a Reish there, meaning beginning. So we were talking about this word, the letter Reish means beginning. Also has the idea of head and start. And so it appears as the first word of the Bible, first word of Torah, which says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. In Hebrew, it says, Reshit bara Elohim et chashmayim ve'et haaretz. Reshit, in Reshit, beginning, bara, created, Elohim, God, et chashamayim, the heavens, the haaretz, and the earth. Okay, so you have this word using reish at the very beginning. Hang on, let me just a second. So, the way we would do this in Hebrew, okay. So, This is the Hebrew of Reish-Shin. This is how it would look in Hebrew. Now, of course, in the Torah scroll, you don't have the vowel markers. You just have the consonants. Okay. So, but if you were reading it in a bound Bible, in the book Bible, or something like that, art scroll or something like that, you'll have the vowel markers here. You'll get into the vowel markers called the Nikudim. In the advanced class, you get into the vowels, what the vowels are. So this beginner's class, we deal solely with the consonants, but I put them up there so you see what it looks like. So you have the date. Remember what I said about the apostrophe here? That's this little mark right here, which is called a Sheva. And it means basically it's stop, that is no sound. There's no vowel sound between these two letters. And so you see in here in the transliteration, you have the Beit apostrophe R. There's no vowel in between. So it's almost like breath, like the word breath in English. That combination of BR, bruh. So the Reish-Shin. Now there'll be a little bit of an extension of the sound there, not just breath, the way the B and the R come together, breath. But there'll be a little bit of a kind of a space there, which is the apostrophe, a little space there, the Reish-Shin. Okay? Here's your Reish. So this is the Beit. Here's the Reish. This is the Shin, which we will get to. I think we'll get to that tonight, which is SH, the Yud, and the Tav, which we will do in the last class. Okay, this vowel marker here is called a tzer, and it's EI. And then this vowel marker here combines with the Yud is an I. Isa, Reish-Shin. Okay, everybody with me? Understand what we have going on here? Okay, so you have it. This word Reish. This letter Reish, this word, this understanding, beginning, is the very first word of Scripture. The very first word that God authors to mankind in his treatise, in his the Torah, his instructions to mankind, explaining to us how the world, how the universe came into existence. Reish, bara, Elohim. So, this idea of beginning with the Reish. Now, a warning, and I think we spoke to this a little bit last week. A warning to be careful when you're reading Hebrew. Because the Reish, and it happens in our advanced class when they're having to decipher words, they have vocabulary and they're having to decipher words. If I'm not careful about my markings and they're not careful about their looking, then it causes some confusion. Because the Reish looks similar to the Vav. You notice that the Vav has that little crown on it, that little head on it, where the Reish has a pronounced head on it. But if you're looking, the print is small or such as that, it can be confusing. Sometimes they use an awkward print, so it can be confusing. If you're writing it like this, if I'm not careful with, you notice the Reish here, I try to make the head extended so that you can tell the difference between the two.
Or Kaf Safed?
The Kaf Safed, except for that one will go below the line. Okay, so usually, and it'll usually have a Sheva in the middle of it too. Not always, but most of the time it has a Sheva there in the middle of it. But that extends below the line, so there's a tail there. Where with these two, not always. Sometimes it gets a little bit difficult to determine whether it's a resh or a vav. In modern Hebrew print, the resh will look like this, and the vav, they'll just put a line, it'll just be like that, without the little crown, without the little head. It'll just be a straight line.
So I get confused with my Bible app, because that's what they do for...
Yes. If you ever use Google Translate to translate a word from English into Hebrew, if you're using a laptop, it has a little Hebrew. If you're doing the Hebrew side, there's a little app at the bottom of the translator where if you punch it, it brings up a keyboard on your screen. And you can just take your mouse and punch it, and it brings up the Hebrew letters, and the vav will look like this. So this is very common in modern Hebrew. This is a common way for them to write the vav. Okay. So be careful with that. Now, in explaining all of this, when we're talking about the head, for example, the human head, that word also begins with a resh. So here you have resh. I believe that resh is spelled. I'm trying to think. What's the matter here? The letter. The pronunciation of the letter. Just say. I'm sorry, I'm confused. I'm trying to find out. Yes, okay. Okay, so this is the letter Reish. This is how you would write out the letter. These letters right here. So this is Reish, this is R, this is the EI, connected to the Yud, and then the Shin. So Reish. For the human head, and we put the vowel is here. Okay? So you see the difference here. You see the difference. So you have the Reish and the Shin, and you have the Aleph. The Aleph is silent. And you have here, this mark here is what is called a Cholem. You say Cholem. Okay?
What does that mean? Human head, is that?
This is the word for the human head, Cholem. What the Cholem is we have what we call the Cholem Vav. Okay, do you recognize that Vav? This is the Vav. Remember that there are three pronunciations for the Vav. Okay, so you have the plain Vav, which is a V sound. You have the Cholem, which is an O sound, and then this is a U sound. Okay, so Vav can be any one of these three, depending on where, no mark, this mark, this mark. So what happens in Hebrew is they take a shortcut and they drop the vav and they leave the cholem mark there. So yesterday we had an interesting word meaning to guard, shama. And we were changing it to a participle. This is my mem, just so you know, and the reish. So it starts off this way, shama, which is the verb to guard. We're changing it to a participle, which in English you would add on an ing. In Hebrew, you change the vowels up, you drop this, and you put the cholem mark here, and you drop this, and this becomes this. So then it becomes shoneh. Okay, so the reason why I'm showing you this for the cholem, you get into this in the advance, but so that dot tells you that that a vav actually goes there. But they take a shortcut and they just make the cholem mark, the cholem dot.
How do you pronounce it?
Shama. What's interesting, we'll get into this when we get into the shin. The shin can take two dots. One on the right side or one on the left side. If it is the dot, if the dot is on the right side, then it is shin. It's the letter sh. But it is also the letter, what is called the letter sin. When you say sin, okay, the way it becomes the letter sin is if the dot is on the left side. So if the dot is over this pillar, it is the S sound. If it is over the right pillar, it is the SH sound, shin. So it can be shin or it can be sin. Okay, so you notice here in Reish-Shin, you notice that it is a shin. Notice where the dot is. And you have to look for that. Because if you're not careful, you'll be reading along. Most of the time it's going to be shin, but sometimes they throw a sin in there. And so if you're not careful looking for the dot, which side of the letter the dot is on, then you're using an S sound instead of an SH sound, such as that. Okay, so this word is shama. So which side would the dot be on? It would be on the right hand side. It would go here. Now look at the word. You have the shin and then you have a cholem. So guess what? It becomes confusing.
Is the dot in the same place as the sin?
Yes, it will be above the letter. It'll be above the letter and to the left. The cholem will be on the above and to the left of the letter. So you're above and on the left side of the letter. So you're sitting there asking yourself, is this a shin or is this a sin or what is this? The answer is, if you have the dot on the right hand side, it will be a shin. If it's got a dot on the right hand side and a dot on the left hand side, the left hand dot is the cholem. It's the O sound. And this is very important, as they're finding out, because they have like 15 verbs that they need to change from being a verb to being a participle. So they have to work with this cholem. So whenever you have a participle, you're going to have the cholem there. That's the marker of a participle. Okay? So, so this is the cholem. So what happens is you have the cholem here, you have the aleph, and you have the shin. Okay, so you know enough to sound this out. You have the reish. What does the reish say? What sound does it make? R. Then you have the cholem makes O. And then the aleph. And then the shin. So reading this way, you have rosh. And that is the word head. So reish means beginning. the start. You insert the Aleph, and it takes a Choleb and it becomes Rosh. So, so we have a term, a festival. Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah. And what is Rosh Hashanah?
Head of the Shana.
Good. The head of the Shana. Okay. Say it again.
Beginning of the year.
Good. So this is typically called the Jewish New Year. Is Rosh Hashanah. And Rosh Hashanah falls between September 15th and October 15th. And it falls, you can keep your camera there, Derek. Okay. This year, it falls on it starts the 20th of September. So you have Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. This year, September 20th. On the Hebrew calendar, that period from the 15th, or from this time until 30 days later is called the month of Tishrei, or Tishri. Okay? So Rosh Hashanah, what day does the New Year occur in our January 1st. So the 1st of January. January 1st. So that would mean what about Tishri then? This day falls on Tishri what? Tishri 1. Because this is the New Year. It is interesting that this is the only festival that falls on the 1st, on Tishrei 1. It falls on the 1st. Most of the others usually fall about like the 15th of the month, of the Hebrew month. Okay, so Passover is on the 15th. Sukkot is on the 15th, usually it's on the 15th. This one, it starts on the 1st. The reason it starts on the 1st is because this sets the date of all the other festivals. And we know, remember that the Jewish month is not a solar month, but a lunar month. The Jewish year, we call it a lunar year, but it's actually a combination of the solar and the lunar year. But it is based on the lunar year, on the lunar cycle. So, what is Tishrei 1? Well, Tishrei 1 is the day of the new moon. By new moon, astronomically, in astronomy, the new moon is usually like this on your calendar, which means what? It's the dark or the opaque moon. In other words, it's no moon. But in calendar-wise, in the Jewish calendar, the new moon is the appearance of the crescent moon. So this is called a waxing crescent. Does that look like a moon? Looks like a banana. See if I can do my moon. And this new moon, if you look up tonight, because we just had what is called a Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of a month. That's another word where we have the word Rosh. But we just had a Rosh Chodesh a couple of days ago, I think, Shabbat, Sunday, somewhere in there. We had a Rosh Chodesh. And so even if you look up now, you'll see the crescent moon as the sun sets. So this crescent moon will appear in the sky at the setting of the sun. Now tonight you'll see it more as it gets dark and it'll be more up here. But what happens is this is the horizon. And as the sun is setting on the horizon, you will see the new crescent moon up here. And it will shortly set. It will set shortly after the sun sets. So you only have just a few minutes to see it. Okay? So when you see this in the month of September, approximately the 15th, to October the 15th, somewhere in between there, when you see this, this is Tishrei 1, which means it's Rosh Hashanah.
What does Shana mean?
Shana means year. Ha is the what do you call it?
Definite article.
Huh?
Definite article?
Definite article, thank you. And Rosh means head. So, literally, the head of the year. Rosh Hashanah means the head of the year. I'm talking about the new moon. The new moon is called Rosh Chodesh. This is new moon or new month. So on that day, it would be called Rosh Chodesh Tishri, the new month of Tishri. Okay?
I can't really see how you spell it. Is it C-H-O-D?
C-H-O-D-E-S-H.
Very similar to Chodesh.
Chodesh. Yes. This word is similar to the Hebrew word for the New Testament, for what is called the New Testament. The New Testament is called the Brit Chadashah. The Brit Chadashah. So notice that you have this, this, and this, this, and this.
How do you say holy?
Holy, Kadosh.
Ruach
Ruach
Is
yes.
that spelled the same way? Or is that...
No. Remember we talked about sanctification, holiness with the kuf.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So this is with the chet. Chadashah. Rosh Chodesh. By the way, Rosh Chodesh would be another one where you would find the Cholev vowel. The vowel. So, the thing about the Rosh Chodesh, again you have Rosh, so that tells you what? What is Rosh? Head. So you're learning a little vocabulary tonight. Chodesh to Chadashah has a dual meaning. What is it that we usually call the first moon? The sighting of the first moon? We call that what?
The new moon.
The new moon. So this is Chodesh. Chodesh does not mean moon. Chodesh does not mean month. It means new. Okay? So, try to stay over here for you guys. Y'all have this so I can take it down? So you have Rosh, Chodesh. Rosh means head. Chodesh means new. Except it doesn't always mean new. And you'll see how this applies. So, when the moon, when the waxing crescent first appears with the sun setting, once again we call that what?
A waning crescent.
No, a waxing crescent. It's setting. So what do we call that? New moon. Okay. So it's a new moon. Question: is the moon new?
No.
No, the phase.
The phase of the moon. But is that even new? Is this the first time that the moon has ever waxed?
No.
It's the cycle of it. So it's new, but it's not new. So this would be more or less, most of the time, Chodesh means new. But it can also mean renewed. And the reason why this is important is to understand. So, I want a different car. I want a new car. So, I go over here to Aleph, and a salesman comes out and I tell him I want a car. I want a new car. And so he takes and he shows me all of these cars, and I pick one, and it's all nice, polished, shiny, smells good, right? And I drive it over here and I tell all of y'all, y'all, I have a new car. Come out and see my new car. And y'all go out, shalom y'all go out and you look at my new car. But I got the car from Aleph, which tells you what? It's a used car. A new used car, right? Slightly used?
Pre-owned.
Pre-owned. See, they use tricky words. Actually, the sign on Aleph, it's been there for years. I don't know, Aleph's been there for like 60 years, actually. And we bought some vehicles there. My dad bought some vehicles there. And the sign above, the sign above the lot, I don't know if it's still there or not, but it was there for years and years. It said, everybody drives a used car. Why? Because the moment you sign the deal and you drive the car off the lot, the moment the wheel leaves the lot, it is considered a used car and they cannot any longer sell it at a new price. It immediately depreciates in its value. As soon as you drive it off the lot, it depreciates in its value. So they used to have the sign that says everybody drives a used car. So what am I saying? I'm saying that I bring you this car, I tell you come out and see my new car, you go out and you see Aleph sticker on the back of the car and you say that's not a new car. The odometer, it may only have 10 or 15. If you look at the cars he has over there, most of them are pretty nice and it may only have 10, 15,000 miles on it. That's pretty new. But it's not brand new. It's still a used car. Right? You with me?
Yep.
It's new to me because I never owned that car before. Therefore, to me, it is a new car. Yet it's not really new, it's renewed. Okay? i.e., it has a second owner, or maybe a third or a fourth. Okay? But it's not a new car. So, why I'm saying this is this word chodesh is both. It's like I tell you I have a new car. If I tell you I have a new car, it can be new, right off of Bogus or whomever, or it can be slightly used,
Old, no.
new to me. This is the idea. This is the idea behind Rosh Chodesh. It is a new month, and we call it a new moon. But is it really a new moon? No. It's simply cycling. And so we have begun, if you would, a new cycle, but it is simply renewing itself. And it goes through its cycle that goes from waxing crescent to full moon to waning crescent to dark moon. Right? And 1 to 2 days later, after dark moon, it becomes the waxing crescent, the new moon again. Then what? To full moon, to waning crescent, to dark moon. Okay? So it's renewing itself. It's in this pattern of renewing itself. So, I told you that the New Testament in Hebrew is called the Brit Chadashah. So here's your word Chodesh. This word here, Chodesh. Brit means covenant. A Brit Milah. Brit Milah, this is the term, the Hebrew term for circumcision. So it means covenant. So you'll hear Jewish people saying that they're going to a Brit. Or if they're speaking Ashkenaz, that they're going to a bris. The reason is because this last letter here is the Tav, and we'll get into that later. But the Tav in Ashkenaz, the Tav can act as a T or as an S. Okay. So you have Brit, which means covenant. Chadashah. And Chadashah means what? This would, yeah, this would be the word that would be testament. But this isn't really a good word. This is the word. It's a covenant. A testament would be like my last will and testament, that kind of a thing. My promises to you and everything like that. It's not that he's in covenant with us. It's a covenant. Like a marriage contract. This is a contract. Okay? So, Chadashah. So, what do we say? Chadashah means what? Chodesh means new or
Renew.
And you see, this is what creates problems in Christianity. Because in Christianity, the Bible is divided into a New Testament. And this is why many Jews, this is part of the reason why many Jews reject Christianity. Because what does this tell you? Old Testament and New Testament. What does this tell you?
One replaces the other.
One replaces the other. Saying what? This is done away with. And the Jews say, not so fast. And the problem is this word here. Because the truth is, there is no Hebrew translation like this. The Hebrews, the Jewish people do not have an Old Testament. What is called in Christianity, the Old Testament is called in Judaism the Tanakh. I'm going to use the King James. And Tanakh is an anagram which stands for, these are the letters. Tanakh stands for, T stands for the Torah, which is the law, right? The N stands for Nevi'im, which, this is, I'll put it down, it's not correct, it should be instruction, but I'll put it down that way easier. Nevi'im are the prophets, and the K stands for Ketuvim, which are the writings. So this consists of the first 5 books, the books of Moshe. The prophets are not just what the Christian Bible considers to be the prophets. Notice here that you have the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim. Okay, well, what about 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, Ruth, all of these? In Judaism, in the Jewish Bible, those are all considered the prophets, the Nevi'im. Why? Because all of that time the prophets are in operation. So you have 2 distinct groups of the Torah and the Ketuvim. The Ketuvim are Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon. Okay? Those are the Ketuvim. So you have the Torah, the first 5 books, you have the Ketuvim, the writings. Everything else goes into the prophets, because this is when the prophets were enacted. This is where they get the word Tanakh. Tanakh does not mean anything per se. It is an anagram of these words, of these divisions. Okay, so Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim. Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim, Tanakh. And this is what Judaism calls, what Christianity calls the New Testament, in Judaism is called the Tanakh. Okay? So, the problem, the issue is this. This is not found. The problem is with this word. That now, because you have a New Testament, you have to have what? An Old Testament. So, question. Does the Torah pertain to today? Do the prophets pertain to today? Mm-hmm. Do the writings pertain to today? Yes. Mm-hmm. So what's old about it? Are they done away with? No. And this is the position of Judaism, and this is the position of Messianicism, and what would be Hebrew roots, is that these all still pertain today, that they're not done away with. And we use Matthew chapter 5 as one of our proof texts, where Yeshua says, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the Torah. I did not come to abolish it." Literally, what he says, because it's translated in the English, "I have come to fulfill it." Literally, what the Greek says is, "I have come to elevate it." He didn't come to do away with it. He didn't come to put it down. He came to pick it up. Okay? And how did he do this? How does he elevate Torah? He elevates Torah in that he lives it out, and this is the fulfillment. To fulfill, to live it in front of you. He's the example of what Torah should be. So, if this is not done away, then this really doesn't belong. And really, there should not be a division. I've known Messianic rabbis who, when they get a Bible, if it's got that dividing page between the Old Testament and the New Testament, it's got that blank page or that page that says the New Testament, they will tear that out. Because there is no Old Testament and there is no New Testament. It is all the Bible. It is all Scripture. And it all pertains. And basically, as people have good rabbis have explained, the New Testament, in effect, explains the Old Testament. What did we say? He came to fulfill. This is how you live it out. This is how it applies. This is how it applies to me. Okay? So, it's an explanation, we could say, but there shouldn't be a division in your Bible. It should not be there. So, keeping in mind this idea here, the Brit Chadashah, this here, but what they've left out is that this is also in action. That the Brit Chadashah, basically, it's not a new covenant. He's renewing his covenant. It's a renewed covenant. Just like it's not a new moon. The moon is cycling, it's renewed. It's a new moon because it's new to us. This month is new to us, whatever. But it's still the same moon. The truth is this, that the Gospels, that what is called the New Testament, is literally, in fact, God renewing his covenant with his people. I think we went through this, I can't remember, my classes all run together, so I can't remember if it was this class or if it was another class. But we talked about the different covenants. Because there's not just one covenant and there's not two covenants. There are actually a series of covenants. And it all starts with Adam. God makes a covenant with Adam. And what does he tell Adam? The day that you eat the tree, the day that you eat of the tree, you shall surely die. That's a promise. That's a covenant. He makes a pact with Adam. So, Adam does what? He eats from the tree. Does he die? Yes. That day? Yes. Not his physical body, he dies inwardly. He starts dying from the inside out. So, God, along comes Noah. God makes a covenant with Noah. The covenant is that after the flood, right? Noah comes out of the ark, the rainbow in the sky, and God makes a covenant with Noah. He says, never again will I destroy the earth in this manner. Next time, I will destroy the earth with fire. I will purge the earth with fire. So, you have the... Can I go over to the field? So you have the covenant with Adam. And now you have the covenant with Noach. So now you have two covenants. Question? When God makes his covenant with Noach, does it depose or dispose of his covenant with Adam? Or is that covenant still in effect? Because the day you sin, you still shall surely die. For the wages of sin is, and the soul that sins shall surely die. So this covenant is still in effect. Correct? So all God did here was what? He adds to the covenant. He puts something new into the covenant. He adds to the covenant. It's a supplemental. By the way, I'll never destroy the earth with water again. Next time, it will be purged with fire. Okay? So, this is the Brit. This is the original Brit. This becomes a Brit Chadasha. You see how that works? The next covenant he makes is with Abraham. Saying what? What is the promise that God makes to Abraham?
I'll make you a great nation.
I will make you a great nation, and from you will come kings and rulers, and as the rabbis tell us, Mashiach will come from Abraham. So a new nation, which is the nation of Israel, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So he makes a covenant. He makes a brit with Abraham. Does this displace or dispose of the covenant he made with Noah? No. He still is not going to purge the earth with water. Next time he will purge it with fire. Does it depose or dispose of his promise to his covenant with Adam? No. The soul that sins shall still surely die. Does Abraham die? Yes, he does. So what? Again, you have a brit chadasha. What Hashem has done is He has taken this brit and He has added an addendum. And now He has taken this brit and He has added an addendum. Now, He makes a new covenant at Mount Sinai. And this covenant He makes with the nation. So you see we've gone from here to here to here, now to a nation. And He makes the covenant with the entire nation. And this is Torah. Torah is the covenant. Torah is a wedding contract, literally. Basically, what does He say? I'm going to be your God and you are going to be my people. If you follow the mitzvot, the commandments that I give to you. He says, if you will do good, do what is right and just, I will bless you. If you do wickedly, I will curse you. And the people agree to the contract. They tell Moshe, all that God tells us we shall do. So they agree to the contract. So we have a brit. Does this brit depose this one? Does the Sinai contract depose the Abrahamic contract? No. Does the Abrahamic contract depose the Noah contract? No. Does the Noah contract depose the Adamic contract? No. They are building off of each other. So once again, you have a brit chadasha. Then you have David. And what is the covenant that God makes with David? That your seed shall sit on the throne of Israel forever. I.e. Mashiach, the Messiah. So you have a brit. Does His promise to David dispose of the promise at Sinai? No. Does it dispose of the promise to Abraham? No. Does it dispose of the promise to Noah? No. Does it dispose of the promise to Adam? No. Now, we have this Yeshua. The Gospels. And we come here, we call this, the term that is used for this is the New Testament, or the New Covenant. Because Yeshua tells the Talmudim in the upper room what? This is the blood of the Brit Chadasha. that is shed for many for the remission of sin. Okay? So it is a brit. When Yeshua comes, does the covenant that he makes, does it depose the covenant with David? No. Exactly, he is what? The Mashiach, he is what? Ben Dari, he's the son of David. Does it depose of Torah? No, because he said what? Do not think I've come to abolish Torah. I've not come to abolish it, I've come to exalt it, to elevate. Does it do away with his promises to Abraham? No. Does it do away with his promise to Noah? No, in fact, what? Kefa, Peter, quotes Noah in his warning concerning the last days, reminding us that this covenant is still in effect. Does it depose of the covenant with Adam? No. Today, the soul that sins still dies. Saying what? It's all still in effect. What did Yeshua do? He put an addendum. It is still a brit chalasha. Saying what? This is the original covenant. This is the new covenant, not new, but added on. This is the new covenant to that one, not new, but added on. This is the new covenant to this one, not new, but added on. This is the covenant, the new covenant to this covenant, but not new, it's added on. And this is the new covenant to this covenant, not new, but added on. Correct. So this is why you will hear a lot of Messianics and a lot of Hebrew roots people speaking not of the New Testament, but of the renewed Testament, the renewed covenant. And this is where the prophet says, it's often quoted, that I will make a new covenant. I will write Torah on your hearts. But the word that is used there is brit chadashah. He says, the prophet says there, that God says, that no longer will it be a covenant engraved in stone, but I will make a new covenant with my people, and I will engrave my instruction on their hearts. This is the new covenant, that it dwells within us. So this is showing you all of this to explain to you this idea of the chodesh, the chadashah. So back to Rosh. You have Rosh Hashanah, which is the head of the year, or what we would call the new year. You have the Rosh Chodesh, which is the new moon or the new month, literally the head of the renewal. That the moon is cycling. And so literally it's the head of the renewal. The month is renewing itself, or the moon is renewing itself. Everybody got this? Oh, oops. So watch this. So I told you that Rosh, the word for head, is like that. Okay? So here's the Reish. O, Shin. Aleph is silent. Rosh. So, what if, remember what Aleph means? Strength, authority, power, the symbol of the Father. What if I drop the Aleph out? And I simply have the Reish-Shin. The Aleph is gone. It's like a little dash under there. So you have the Reish, which is the letter R. This is the vowel for A and Shin. So you have Rash. Rosh and Rash. Very similar, only the vowel, except for that the Aleph is gone. Rash is the word for poor. You drop the Aleph, poverty. The Aleph is gone, no authority, no power, no strength. Person who drops God, they're poor. They may be wealthy as far as the physical things of this life, but in reality, they have nothing. Drop the Aleph, and you have nothing. Saying what? So notice that your head can do this, right? It can look in this direction, or it can look in this direction. Can it look at both directions at once? No. You can only look in one direction at a time. So, you are either looking at God, or you're looking at other things. You cannot serve two masters. You're either looking this way, or you're looking that way. You're either doing good, or you're doing evil. You cannot sit on the fence. It started off with the namesake of Yeshua, Yehoshua, Joshua. Joshua's name is related to Yeshua. Yeho, Yud-He Vav-He, the name of God. Yeho, Shah, Hosha, to save, saying God saves. Or God is salvation. Yehoshua. Said in his final speech to the children of Israel just before he dies, he says, choose this day whom you will serve. Yeshua said, the one who is not gathering in is scattering abroad. He said, do not think that you can serve two masters. You will love the one, and you will hate the other. You will serve the one, and you will despise the other. But you cannot serve both. So the head can face in two different directions. It can see both ways, but it can only see one at a time. It can only see one at a time. Now it is important that Rosh can become Rash by dropping the Aleph. It is also important to understand that the Rosh is a pictograph of the head for Reish. That the Reish here is that of a Vav. And the Vav symbolizes what? Man. With his head bowed. remember that we were just talking concerning the tzadik and the kuf. The tzadik and the kuf. The tzadik and the kuf. And when you put the tzadik, and you add to it the kuf, you have the word this is the I vowel E, goes with the yud. You have the word tzaddik. You remember what tzaddik is?
Righteous.
The righteous man. Remember that the tzaddik means to hunt. And the kuf, the idea of kadosh, holiness. So we spoke about the word that tzaddik is a righteous hunter. He's a holy hunter. And remember we talked about he's hunting for souls. He's hunting for the divine spark. So you have the Reish, and his head is bowed. And he's next to what? He's next to the tzaddik and the kuf, the righteous man. Is a man who has his head bowed. Meaning what? Usually it's a symbol of what? When we're bowing our heads, it's a symbol of prayer. Remember the Rash of poverty? Let's call it humility. Remember that God warns his people not to be stiff-necked. Do not be stiff-necked any longer. What does it mean to be stiff-necked? A person who walks around like this. Like they have their hands up in the air. We call it having your nose in the air. Mm-hmm. Right? What? And others. I don't think that there's any of them immune. But you know, I used to tell people, your nose is so high up in the air, the birds are landing on it. You know, they're walking around all like they're all that. They're special. They're privileged. Okay? And usually that type of person, you cannot tell them anything. They are uncorrectable and unteachable. Because they have this arrogance and this pride. So you can't tell them anything. You can, but they're not going to listen and they're not going to take it. Okay? So God warns his people not to be that way. Don't be stiff-necked. When training a horse to be ridden, we put a bridle on the horse's head. And connected to that bridle is a piece of metal called the bit. It's called a bit because the horse bites on it. Connected to the bit are the reins, which you pull to steer the horse, to tell the horse which direction to go.
The thing about the bit is not so much the part that's in the mouth, but it's actually the outside part that is the working part of the bit. It's in the horse's mouth and it's held tight there by the bridle, so that the horse cannot spit it out, because this happens to be the most tender part of the horse's head, the horse's body. It's his cheeks. You've touched a horse, you know how soft their nose is. This is the most tender part here, around his mouth. So if you look at bits, you'll notice that there are usually either two circles, there's a circle on each side, or there's something that's on each side of the cheek here of the mouth. This is the important part, because it is actually that little piece of metal, not the part inside the mouth, but it's actually the part outside the mouth that is the working part. When you're training a horse has his own will, and he wants to do what he wants to do, and he wants to go where he wants to go, and he really doesn't appreciate you trying to go along, tagging along with him. So basically, he wants to get rid of you, i.e. buck you off. The way a horse is broken is with the bit, because when you pull on the rein is attached to the bit, and it pulls that bit into the cheek of the horse. So how would you like to be walking around with something attached to your cheeks all day? And every time somebody wanted you to turn, they would yank on you, and it would push that piece of metal into your cheek. And as you wouldn't like it, the horse doesn't like it either. So when you're first breaking the horse, you're going to be pulling pretty hard on that bit, on the reins, and you're going to be pushing that bit pretty deep in. As soon as the horse does what you want him to do, you let go. And what? The pressure's released. He's relieved. He starts acting up again, whatever. You pull on the rein again, the bit goes in. And the horse comes very quickly, pretty quickly, most of them, to understand, to realize that as long as he's following your commands, the bit's not putting pressure on him. And he's able to relax. As the horse is being trained, you have a good trainer, as the horse is being trained, the easier the horse becomes to turn. Because he learns that as soon as he follows the command of the rein, as soon as you pull on that rein, he learns to turn, the pressure is instantly released, and what? No problem. He's fine. So that a well-trained horse, it only takes just the slightest movement of the rein and the horse turns. Because you see, he started out how? Stiff-necked, right? Arched back. You're not going to tell me what to do. You're not going to ride me. I'm going to do what I want to do. You're getting off of my back. But the pressure is applied, and the pressure is applied, and the pressure is applied, and the pressure is applied until what? The horse becomes compliant. And he learns to listen to the rein, to listen to the bit. And as soon as he listens to the bit and he obeys it, the pressure is relieved. And so a well-trained horse barely has to be told. Just a little tug on the bit and the horse begins to turn. He knows. A very well-trained horse does not even need reins. He does not need the bit. A very well-trained horse, you see them at the livestock show and such as that, the rodeo horses and all of these, very well-trained horses. Have you ever wondered how the cowboy can ride the horse with his lariat and lasso the cows, because it takes two hands to do that? How does the horse know where to go? The cowboy is actually using his legs. You ever drive your car with your legs? You know? You're doing something and you put the steering wheel on your leg. The cowboy is actually controlling the horse with his legs. By simply shifting in the saddle, it's like riding a motorcycle or riding a surfboard or something like that. Just by shifting, the horse understands what the cowboy wants, and the horse will move directions. He will speed up, he will slow down. So if the cowboy puts the stirrups up, pushes up on the stirrups, that means he wants the horse to slow down. If he puts his feet back, that means he wants the horse to speed up, to go faster. And as he's shifting on the saddle, and this is how he can be there with his lasso. Nothing, no hands on the rein, none of these things. Sometimes they put it in their mouth, sometimes they would put it on the saddle horn, but he's got both hands on the rope. And the horse is doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. That's how well trained he is, that he can make the two literally act as though they're one, as they're a single animal. And they're riding in this perfect unison together. This unity. This is what God wants of us. And that's why he says, do not be stiff-necked any longer. Be compliant. Be well-trained. So that what? As you're new, and he's breaking you in, there's going to be a lot of pressure. But the more we learn and the more we grow, the less pressure he has to use. So that he can simply tug on our hearts and we know what is the right thing to do. And if we're well trained, we go in that direction automatically. And there are those, few, but there are those who are very well trained, whom he simply needs to suggest. They're working in such great unity together. An example is Moshe. Look at how well the two worked together. How beautiful the relationship was between the two. So, this is the idea of the tzaddik. The Rosh, the head is bowed. Saying what? For the true follower of God, for the true believer, for the true follower of Yeshua, there's no room for pride, and there's no room for arrogance. We should be in a spirit of poverty, of poorness. And this type of poverty, this type of poorness means humility, to be humble. And this is what Yeshua was talking about in the Beatitudes when he said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is Malchut Hashemayim, theirs is the kingdom of heaven." He's not talking about those who don't have money or what have you. He's talking about this. The kingdom of heaven belongs to the humble. It belongs to the tzaddik, to the holy hunters of God, seeking for God and seeking the souls that have been lost, to restore them, to bring them back. And so, Reish, Rosh, Rash. And the Reish, next week we take up Shin. The Reish is facing which direction? Where's his head facing? And Shin is the first letter of the word Shaddai. As in El Shaddai. Remember the song? Mm-hmm. If you go to a Jewish person's house, they'll have what is called a mezuzah on their door, on the door frame. Okay, it's usually on the right hand side, on the door frame, it's sitting there, and it's tilted inward. And on that mezuzah will look something like this, and on that mezuzah will be Shin. On the tefillin, the box that we put on our head during prayer, put it on our arm, is also the Shin, standing for Shaddai. It stands for Shaddai. In Shaddai, when we do Passover, we have a part where we go Dayenu. If God had only sent Moses, Dayenu, it would have been enough. If God had only sent Moses and freed us, Dayenu, it would have been enough. If God had only sent Moses and freed us, if God had only sent Moses and delivered the plagues, Dayenu, it would have been enough. If God had only sent Moses and delivered the plagues, and what have you, there's like 10 different things that you go through. Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Dayenu means enough. It would have been enough. It would have been sufficient. And that's what this is here, Shaddai. The Dai there is Dayenu. So, meaning, Shaddai means sufficient. That He is sufficient. El, God, Shaddai, the sufficient one. We usually think of this in terms of His provision for us. My provider. That He provides. He's the God who provides. He's the God who's sufficient. He has everything. Everything belongs to Him. And He gives to me what I need. So, in introducing Shin to you, the Reish is facing the Shin. What? The humble man, the prayerful man, is looking to Shaddai. The God who is sufficient and the God who provides. With that we say, Brachot Shalom V'Layla Tov.